Well, it's the end of the series. Let's rank them. So, I finished up Series 3, so that means it's time to rank all the stories. And because I count two-parters as one story, this is in fact going to be a top 10 ranking. Even though it's not really top, it's just all the episodes. I'm not including any Christmas specials in this, night or any minisodes. So no Time Crash, no Christmas, well, no, wouldn't have been, no Runaway Bride, no Voyage of the Damned. I don't include the specials when I do these rankings. I only include the episodes that are considered to be the series proper. So, let's get to it. We're going to start down at the bottom, and that will be the Lazarus Experiment. I was a little bit surprised when I actually sat down and ranked these, and I ended up putting this one at the bottom. The thing was that there are episodes that have problems that make me a lot angrier. There's nothing that really gets me very worked up about the Lazarus Experiment. The thing is, even some of the other episodes that I don't like very much, I can look at them and go, there was an interesting idea there. This is Scientist Becomes Monster. This is the most generic, rote, science fiction, horror-ish fantasy thing ever. If you don't have a unique spin on it, there's no reason to ever do this story. And this episode does not have a unique spin on it in any way whatsoever. The pacing is atrocious. The effects are laughable. The performance from Mark Gatiss is okay, but it doesn't really sell it all that well. The premise is ridiculous. It just basically has nothing that's good, really. And that's sometimes what happens with things at the bottom. Things at the bottom either have something that's really awful, or they just don't have anything good to lift up everything else. That's the case here, so it takes the bottom spot. Moving up one spot to number 9, we have one that I do think had some potential, but the things that didn't work make me angry. And that would be Daleks in Manhattan and Evolution of the Daleks. The core idea of the Daleks trying to evolve and better themselves because they recognize that they're kind of stuck and they cannot improve, even though the idea of improving is somewhat blasphemous to them. That is an idea with potential. Bringing back the scheming Daleks as opposed to the come sweeping in with an armada and just blow everything up Daleks we've been getting up to this point. That was an idea with potential. And it just doesn't work. It like on so many levels, from tiny little nitpicky things that apparently don't bother other people as much as they do me, like the accents. Holy God, Tallulah's voice nails on a chalkboard. And, then there's the really obvious stuff like first of all, the pig slaves. Why pigs? First of all, the show did pigs. It did a pig alien in series 1, so why are we doing pigs again? And that effect is okay, I guess. But then there's the Dalek-human hybrid with its weird, phallic, twitchy face things, and that performance doesn't work worth a dang at all. And this whole idea that, the Doctor gets struck by lightning and inserts his genetic what? Look, this show can get away with a lot of technobabble and gobbledygook, but this doesn't even seem like technobabble. This is just nonsense. This thing just does not work. Number 8. Another one that's just basically dull, but it's more competent than the Lazarus Experience and didn't tick me off as much as Daleks in Manhattan and Evolution of the Daleks. And that's 42. 42, again, had a promising idea with the real-time gimmick and just the ship falling into the sun. That was plenty. It didn't need a monster, and the monster is kind of generic in terms of execution. Concept of the monster is cool. Execution of the monster is generic. It does have that one great moment of Martha in the escape pod getting more and more distance between her and the Doctor. She can't hear him as he's yelling, "I'll save you." That's a great moment. So, unlike Lazarus Experiment, it does have a couple of things that raise it, but it's not a lot. It's smaller, tiny things, whereas the big core ideas either aren't very good or aren't utilized properly. So, Yeah, this is down towards the bottom. Okay, now for number 7, and now we start getting into episodes that I do actually enjoy and are not ones that I would skip. It was really just those bottom 3 that are ones that I'm like, I don't really need to see that again. So that brings us to the Shakespeare Code, which is goofy. It does the, oh, we've got witches, oh wait, it's aliens thing that, you know, I've kind of made like a hobby out of pointing that out when that stuff happens. So it's got that going on. The Carrionites aren't great. Their music is quite good, though. The guy who plays Shakespeare is great. It's got a fun vibe to it overall. Martha and the Doctor have a good rapport, although the show does hammer in the Martha is crushing on him a lot harder, a lot sooner than I thought they did. But there's enough good stuff here, largely in terms of the character dynamics and interactions and the chemistry between the performers, that helps bring it up, and I still find it enjoyable. Next up, number 6, Gridlock. I've got nitpicks on this one, but I find it a lot of fun. A bit like 42, Monster is unnecessary. The Makra don't need to be here. It's kind of a cool nod to the history of the show, but this episode does not need a monster. It does not assist any of the themes or any of the other things going on with the episode. Also, the whole idea of the mood drugs, that was an idea that I feel like needed to be explored more in depth. Here, it's really just used as at the very end as a payoff to explain why everything went to heck. But I feel like that entire concept could have been explored into its own episode, and I kind of don't like that it gets thrown away on this. And we also have the cat aliens back, which, you know, I'll always say that something that is that clearly an analog to an animal we already know is lazy design, even if they are supposed to be an evolution of cats as we know them. I still find that lazy. But all that said, Brannigan is a great character. Actually, pretty much all the supporting characters are really good, have a lot of personality, even the ones that we only see briefly. There's a real sense of time and of exhaustion with the situation, yet holding on to that hope, that kernel of hope that is not logical and falls apart in the face of the Doctor pointing out a few basic things like, has anybody ever seen a police car? So, but just capturing that, all that I really like. And the ending with the face of Bo works for me too. Not only because of how it pays off later, but just in and of itself, I think that works pretty well. So it's got some hiccups, it's got some speed bumps, it's got some wasted elements, but overall, I like the vibe. And I will always love a story that takes a simple concept, something we all know, like a traffic jam, and finds a way to blow it up into a sci-fi story. I just like that. All right, officially in the upper half, number 5, Sound of Drums and The Last of the Time Lords. Some people might be surprised this one came in as high as it did, because I think I did a fair amount of complaining in that review, but ultimately the thing was, the things that are good, that I kind of shortchanged in my memory of it, are really good, and that is primarily Martha's family, some of the supporting characters. But more than anything, the Master, when speaking with the Doctor, when the two of them are actually playing opposite each other, it's electric. It's really wonderful, and to see that energy and that history and that sense of animosity between them. The fact that the Doctor wants to let it go and the Master just won't, ever. I can't put it any higher than this, because I do think it's one of the bigger offending Deus Ex Machina resolutions overall, with the fact that it rolls back the year worth of time completely. And in addition to that, when the Master isn't playing opposite the Doctor, I find him just too goofy and too silly. But when this thing's working, it's working really well. And the emotional payoff with the Doctor specifically works. And Martha, the circumstances and the way that she chooses to leave, I really enjoy it. I think it speaks to her strength as a character. Here we go, number 4, Smith and Jones. I think this is one of the really good companion introduction stories, especially ones that introduce a new companion, but not necessarily a new Doctor. Because we get who Martha is quickly. We get who she is, we get that she's smart, it's demonstrated, it's not just said, it's demonstrated, and we get why the Doctor is sort of like, oh, hey, I like you, Martha Jones. And as much as I'm not a huge fan of the Plasmavore as a villain, I do really like the entire place the hospital on the moon thing. And I like the Jadoon. Is that weird that I'm complaining about that since they're basically just rhinos versus the cat people? Maybe, but at least it's in a complete prosthetic head instead of just, slapping some makeup on people. So I think I just give the extra effort a pass. But I like the Jadoon. I think they're fun and they're neat. And the Doctor, it's just great to see the Doctor just sort of coming in and just doing his thing, running down a corridor and trying to help everybody. He slips right back into it so easily, and Martha keeps pace with him pretty much right from the beginning. It sets up their dynamic really well. It introduces her really well as a character, and it's just a fun time. Number 3, Utopia. Because I do consider it separate from Sound of Drums and Last of the Time Lords. Not everyone does. People do disagree with me on that, but I treat it separately because I like it so much better than those. First of all, Derek Jacobi. Oh, man. So endearing and wonderful and sweet and kind as Yana. And then on a dime. On one turn to camera and just the coldness in his face. The anger behind every word, and just to watch that turn, it is awesomely terrifying. And I like I like the whole thing of trying to get these people up to whatever Utopia might be, whatever that last speck of hope is. And especially if you already know what's going on, the idea that the Master is helping this happen, that just adds to a wonderful, beautiful irony to it. I love having Jack back. I love the scene where Jack is explaining, to the Doctor what's going on, and he's trying to reset these rods and whatnot, and the Doctor asks him, "Do you want to die?" And Jack dodges the question. I love that. I love the impact of "You are not alone." And the Doctor's desperation of, no, please just don't do this. And the Master is going to be the Master. So yeah, he's going to do this. It is really phenomenally good stuff. So, up to the top 2. You should know what they are. Number 2, Blink. This was a really tough call between the number 2 and the number 1 spot. If you asked me on another day, I might even flip them around. But for today, when I'm recording this, I'm putting Blink at number 2. And Blink is, I've said it before, and I've tested it. I have said that this is a test episode to sell people on Doctor Who. And people will argue that with me. It's like, but it's Dr. Light. You don't even get the character that much. It's not about selling the character. You get enough of him to get who he is. But it's selling the feel and the vibe and the potential of the show. This is the kind of thing this show can do. It can be funny, it can be scary, it can mess with time, and it can give you wonderful, endearing characters that you like right away. This episode does all of that expertly in one go. I will always argue that I'm not saying watch this and then go from here. I'm saying use it as a test episode. Say, hey, what do you think of this? Would you want to see more of something like this? I have had success with this. Liz is now watching Doctor Who because I showed her this episode. And it is just so good. The angels are terrifying. The concept of them is really cool. The way that the Doctor is brought into the story, it doesn't feel like we're missing him because his presence hangs around the whole thing because we've got the Easter egg and the cleverness of how that conversation goes. I love that. Sally Sparrow's a great character. Billy Shipton is wonderfully tragic with the way that he ends. It is sweet, it is funny, it is scary, it is all this stuff wrapped up into one thing, and it is so great, but it doesn't take the top spot. Number 1 spot goes to Human Nature and the Family of Blood, which probably only just edges it out because since we get just a little bit more time with these characters, both the ones that we know and the ones we're just meeting, that the emotional resonance of this two-parter hits me a little bit more than Blink could, even though Blink has some good emotional moments. And especially as I get older, I take a lot more, I place a lot more weight in the emotional resonance of something, especially with something I'm revisiting and knowing what feelings stuck with me. So this story of the Doctor being human, of Martha being next to him and practically being invisible, of John Smith being so like the Doctor but yet so distinctly different from him, of Joan Redfern falling in love and then basically having to watch another man walk off with the face of the man she fell in love with. The family of blood, the way they interact and their glee that they take in what they do, and their odd way of talking, it's so creepy. And the scarecrows have a great design to them. All these characters feel so fleshed out. All these characters that could have been one-dimensional. Characters like the headmaster, he feels like he has a history and he feels like a fully fleshed out person. The other students, and the young boy with the psychic and the watch, and the watch is such a cool idea too. This whole thing is it's a concept that shouldn't work. We're gonna make the Doctor human. I'm sorry, what? But it's so good. I love this story so much, and I believe it's the best story of Series 3. You may disagree with me, though, so why not share your own ranking? Whatever your thoughts are, whether it is on the list I gave you, or if you want to share your own ranking, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Bunch of stuff to do, buttons, links, Patreon, book, Twitter, merch. It's all down there. Click on it. Or don't. It's okay, because at the end of the day, folks, you are the council. I just run the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.